Hey guys, welcome to another episode of As Told by Ari. So this week it is part 2 of series 1 of the RANT project. I'm gonna call it that now. I like that name. And honestly, the RANT project is really just me kind of getting back to my roots. Normally we talk about a little bit more serious subject matter on the channel, and I just needed to take a break from that. I think the biggest reason, I know the biggest reason, I've talked to them now. A bunch of my followers and subscribers have, definitely mentioned that one of the biggest reasons that they started following me in the first place, one of the main reasons that they wanted me to make the YouTube channel in the first place was after hearing me like rant. Just literally talking off the top of my head about something that I'm passionate about. So we are going to get back to that. We're going to do that. And, it's usually a little bit less serious subject matter. So we're going to keep it light. Another thing I'm going to start doing that's been really helpful, it's been really fun too for, the subscribers and my followers, is when it's idea week, or idea day, I should say. I'll send out polls and stuff like that. And usually, because I get so many awesome answers and I get so many replies, I usually can't pick by the end. So what I'm gonna start doing is putting these topics and the names of the people who gave me the topics in a hat. We're gonna ruffle them around. I'm gonna pick out of a hat, and then they get a nice little shout out for the topic. And it's honestly just a nice way for me to kind of show appreciation for you guys watching and for you being interactive with the whole process, because I could not do this stuff without you guys. So thank you for coming back. Please hit the subscribe button and let's get started. So today, the video, we are going to talk about toxic relationships and kind of like slut shaming and hookup culture. Now, those things can stem off of each other, but I'm going to separate them probably. So there's a chance that I might make 2 videos. We'll see. I'm going to announce that now. We will see. These videos, these 2 ideas come from one of my friend X and my best friend Hannah's little sister Jenna. So thanks, you guys. Thank you very much for sending in those ideas. That being said, let's get started. So do we talk about hookup culture first and slut shaming, or toxic relationships? Let's talk about toxic relationships first. Just because, I feel like worst comes to worst, if once I talk about slut shaming and that, it can stem off of this, because ultimately it can. So, toxic relationships. I am not gonna lie to you guys. I do not like talking about, romantic relationships a lot, just because, I don't like to air dirty laundry. I don't like to make it dramatic, and I think they can be a little trivial sometimes, just because, I think we know what a toxic, romantic relationship looks like, with the extremes, but I want to take this time to talk about toxic platonic relationships, friendships, really familial relationships, even, because something that I'm seeing a lot of, and something that I've really come to grasp actually in the last couple of years, especially with the election, you are well within your right to walk away from anything that no longer positively serves you. Okay? That doesn't matter how many years you've known this person. It doesn't matter how much history you have with this person. It doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. Nothing. There's really no type of anything keeping you connected to something that doesn't positively serve you. Now, I know that probably sounds pretty selfish. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure that sounds selfish. And on some level it is. However, it's also one of the most self-preserving and one of the most intelligent things that you can do, because ultimately you'd be amazed at how toxic friendships can play into your self-worth, your psyche, your overall appreciation for life. So, little backstory, just because, talking about platonic, toxic relationships. So, I'm not going to go into great detail because, honestly, I don't really want to. I also don't want to make this into a topic that it's not. So, just know that around election time, I had a group of friends that I had known for a very long time. These were my best friends moving to a new school district. They were people that I spent days at. I spent days at their house. My parents, which if you grew up in a black household, there's no such thing as oh, where are you going? Oh, who's there? Like, there's no such thing as, like, just going over there and there's no questions asked. Like, there's always at least an essay that you have to turn in every time you want to go to someone's house. We were so close that, like, I would be like, I'm going to this person's house. My parents would be like, yeah, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. Like, okay, right? I even had gone through, like, some of my real hardships with these people at their houses. Like, they happen at their houses. Like, thicker than blood, swear, as I thought at this time, okay? Now, I will leave my opinions on, like, to myself on this matter, but, if you can be friends with somebody who has a different ideology than you, kudos to you. That's amazing, especially if it can be a civil and peaceful relationship. However, when you are an activist, when you are open about your stances, and when you typically have to find your ground at first, not saying that it was done in the best way all the time, but when you're finding your voice, that can be a rather interesting time, because not only do you find out who your real friends are, but you find out a lot about the relationships that you are in. So that being said, as the election gets closer and as things escalate more, and as more things are happening with, like, police brutality and stuff like that, as an activist, I openly was speaking out about it. I openly speak out about it. I still speak out about it, okay? These are not issues that go away in a matter of a day. They've been here for millennia. They'll still be here. So I had a couple friends who thought it was 100% okay to vote for and actually, like, support Donald Trump. I'm just going to straight up say it. If you support him, you don't support me. We have nothing else to talk about. Like, that's it. That's really it. Now, because these people had been my friends for a very long time, this was not just you feel this way, well, we're done. No, guys, the reason that we're not friends anymore, and granted, I am not saying that I am absolved of anything wrong. I'm not saying that some of the things that happened, I couldn't have handled better. However, I knew, based off of their actions, based off of what they were saying, and based off of their ideology, the ideologies that they were supporting, that I could see that any type of activism on my end was only going to be met with negativity. It was only going to be met with opposition. And no matter how I described it to them, no matter how I tried to make it more of a human issue instead of a black v white issue, it was always black v white. It was never well, how can we help as your friends? It was always, well, you think all white people think like this, don't you? No, I think that racist white people think like this, and if you just so happen to think like that, then you're racist too. Like, that's it. These were the type of conversations that we had to have all the time, because not only were they insecure in their own thoughts, but they were not secure in the fact that if the shoe fits, and if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't fit, then don't touch it. Like, it was that type of stuff. Because believe it or not, guys, other white people can be racist. It's crazy. Weird. Anyway, so that is, like, one example of a toxic platonic relationship. I saw that I was not being met with support. I saw that no matter what I said, no matter how I said it, it was always going to be, well, you're being too sensitive. Oh, well, you need to think like this. Well, maybe if this didn't happen, then that you wouldn't worry about that. If someone is telling you that type of stuff when you're talking about the types of issues that we were dealing with, that's not your friend, period. The friends that say, well, I hear what you're saying, but, like, that's not your friend. Any person that has to do with any type of persecution, any type of, opposition from the majority, anybody that is a part of that majority that will tell you anything along the lines of, well, maybe if this happened, or, well, are you sure that this is actually how it, like, that's not your friend. That's toxic. Because that not only invalidates your experience, but that is someone who is actively complicit in the world around them. That's not your friend. That's a toxic platonic relationship. Let's move to families, because I don't think people understand that families can also be very, very toxic. Families, actually, I will say this and I will hold on to this. If you ever get messed up, your family was the first to do it. Period. If you ever deal with any type of psychological problem, if you deal with any type of, like, really anything like that, I'm a firm believer that 9 times out of 10, your family had something to do with it. Not gonna lie. Our families are not perfect. Our families are made of flawed people because it's a flawed system. We are people. It's just what it is. That being said, I feel like once the title family member or like, you know, brother, sister, cousin, niece, nephew, aunt, uncle, any of it, once any of those titles are thrown around, people feel as though that they either A, have to treat that person with some type of like biblical respect, or they feel as though that they can't stand up to them, like they can't stand up for themselves to that person. And I am here to tell you that that is a lie. That is a whole lie. A real one. You are in no way obligated to deal with somebody, no matter if you have blood ties or not. Period, point blank. You are not in any way held to that. Now, I'm sure there's some personal obligation, yeah. But understand that that is a personal obligation and nothing more. If your family members also invalidate your experience, if they do things like make you feel crazy for having emotions, they do things like make you feel unappreciated for doing things that you did not have to do, if they constantly are berating you and belittling you because they literally feel like they can, if they feel as though they are allowed to talk to you and hit you and do whatever they want to because they know you're not going to do anything back, that is toxic, and you no longer are obligated to deal with that person. Period, point blank. Like, that's it. There's no beating around the bush. There's no, oh, well, maybe I should give them another chance. No. I mean, if you want to give them another chance, go ahead. But I am here to tell you that it does not matter what the title is. Anybody that is toxic to you should be cut from you. That is it. It doesn't matter how much you love them. It doesn't matter how much they've done for you. At the end of the day, if they've done that much for you and you're still feeling as though you need to leave, then what they've done for you really doesn't matter, because ultimately it came at the price of you. Do I need to say that again? I'll say that again. Because ultimately, no matter what, if someone's done a million things for you, if you still feel like you're not being appreciated, if you still feel like you need to get away from them, you need to leave, then everything that they've done for you came at the price of you. You've paid your dues. You've paid your fines. Now get the fuck out. Leave. There's no reason to put yourself through the mental anguish of asking yourself, why am I not good enough? Why don't they like me? Why are they always treating me like this? Why are they always... No, cut it. Cut it. Cut it. Don't ask fucking questions. Leave. This is what people don't understand. This is my favorite thing. Your presence, in order for someone to berate you, to belittle you, to negatively affect you, you have to give them your presence. You have to give them that attention. You have to give them that energy. So take away your presence. Take it away. It's literally that simple. And no joke. It's almost like you don't have to deal with abuse. It's almost like you have a say-so. And you know, that's usually not what people hear. That's not how people feel usually, and that's not usually what they're taught. They're usually taught, oh, well, this is your family. Like, family never leaves family. All right, well, if that was the case, then we should have also established that family doesn't abuse family. Family does not take advantage of family. Family does not hurt family. Let's talk about that then. Let's round that one up. I'm real sick of that whole, oh, well, that's your family, so, like, you should always keep in contact, but you should always care. No. 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 Because actually, if anything, if we're family, then we shouldn't even have to, that, like, honestly shouldn't even have to be said. Because if you were doing what you were supposed to do, and I felt as though I could do what I needed to do, then there wouldn't even be a need to say, oh, well, you know, that's blood. That's your blood. You should really always stick with them. Like, that's, you know, no matter what, we'll get through it, thick or thin. No, sometimes you don't get through it. Because your family can be just as fucked up as anybody else. Let me be the first to say that. That blows. Totally sucks. But this whole narrative that, like, because someone shares your blood, that someone's your family member, that you have to take their shit is bull. And it's an old narrative that needs to die. It's gone with the dust. Period. And I mostly am saying that because as a young adult, I really came to that realization when me and my own family weren't getting along at the greatest. Now, granted, I was a teenager. I was a young teenager, and I was going through my own stuff. So, like, not saying that every family doesn't get through it. However, in the event that my family and my relationship with my family didn't change, if my actions didn't change too, we wouldn't have the relationship that we do. Me and my siblings would not be as close. Me and my mom would not be talking. Me and my stepdad, yo. Oh, it would have been like, what stepdad? Like, it would have been really bad. My dad, who just entered my life again, like really not too long ago. Who's that? It really, if I'm being real. So, you know, this whole idea that you have to endure abuse and toxic behavior because someone is your family member. No, yo. No. And I'm not going to sit here and play like the big and bad. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, I walked away from my family and that's why we have a better relationship. No. That took work on the end of me and my family to get through that. But that was equal work on both parts, okay? Me and my siblings all had to grow up. Me and my siblings all had to come to an understanding that it's us for and against the world, not us for and the world. No. We made that, that was an honored decision by us for blood. Our parents, well, we've all had our ups and downs with our parents. I know you all have. There was definitely a time my stepdad almost tried to kick me out of the house once when I was younger. Like, look, toxic relationships happen. That's another thing. Actually, let me point that out too. And that's another thing. Toxic relationships happen. There are times when a relationship can become toxic. But if the person is willing and actually puts the work in to change the dynamic of that relationship for the better, which you will see, you will know, that is when it is okay for you to stay in a situation, okay? And I'm not sitting here saying that, like, this is a very rocky subject because everybody has their own breaking points. Everybody has their own way of dealing with, you know, toxicity. But people are capable of change. And, like, that's one thing that I guess I should really try to iterate before, you know, I end this in the next minute or two. Toxic relationships can happen, yes. Like, any relationship has the ability to become toxic, yes. But understand that it takes human choice and human sacrifice, like the real kind of pride, of forgiveness, of anger. It takes real sacrifice to turn a relationship that was toxic into something that is healthy, into something that is loving. And if that is what a group of people even want to do, then that, I'm telling you, it is the most growth-oriented process that you can have. I honestly feel so much better as a person. I love that me and my family are so much closer now. I love it. And honestly, thinking back to a time where, like, I couldn't just call up my siblings, or I couldn't just call up my mom or my stepdad, it brings me real sadness. That brought me real sadness to think that there was a real time where we were all in such a place that couldn't be a thing. But at the same time, when I was dealing with those things, I also had to make the very stark decision that at the same time, my family was not benefiting me. I was dealing with an anorexia diagnosis. I was dealing with mental health issues. I was dealing with all types of stuff. And at the time, my family was not healthy for me. They did not understand mental health the way they do now. They did not understand anxiety the way they do now. They didn't understand mental strength the way that they do now. And not only did they have to go through that with me to get there, but they had to go through their own issues to finally get there. So, you know, I mostly want to say that toxic relationships, two things. Toxic relationships can happen. They will happen in your life. And at the end of the day, no matter what the title is to you, you are well within your right to walk away from that person. Second thing is, any relationship can become toxic. Any relationship. Platonic, familial, romantic, anything in between there can become toxic. However, it takes forgiveness, it takes sacrifice, and it actually takes patience. It takes real patience to grow to where you need to grow and for someone else to get to where they need to get to in order for you guys to make a relationship work. So for the friends that I no longer have because of this election, because of whatever I did to contribute to that, I had to let that go. While I wish them the best of whatever they're doing, at the end of the day, not only do I not feel bad about what happened, but I am at peace with it because at the end of the day, I know that those are relationships that were not benefiting me. Those are not relationships that were actually conducive to my personal growth. They constantly had me questioning myself. They constantly had me questioning whether or not we were actually even friends. Like, that's not good. And I got out of it. Luckily, I found so much better people. Oh my goodness. When it comes to my family, kudos to them. You know, we've all taken our own personal journeys together, and we've all, you know, we've also all had to do it alone in the last couple of years because that's where we were at. So all in all, it's on you to whether stay in a toxic relationship or bring the fact that it's toxicity, bring the toxicity to light. And it's up to you to either fix it or it's up to you to walk away. But either way, you always have a choice, especially when it comes to your friends and your family. No matter what anyone says, you always have the choice, no matter what, okay? So staying in a toxic relationship, unless that's something you want to do, know that you always have the choice to leave. And the only way to get out of a toxic relationship is to take away your presence from that toxic person, because that's what they need in order to do what they're doing. Okay? That being said, guys, that is episode 1 of this little 2-part episode thing that I'm doing right now. So that was the toxic relationship aspect of it. And I'm going to switch to a new video to talk about slut shaming and, I don't know, just college living, really. So I'll see you guys for part 2 of this episode.